Hello, and welcome to Still a Little Salty with your host, Christy. It has been a little bit of time since I've sat down to record anything for the podcast. Um, I guess taking a mental break from it all. A lot of life has happened, a lot of great things, a lot of fun and funny and interesting experiences. And if you hear something in the background, it is Navy. She has decided to join us and is being quite the diva. So, anyways, um, today. Today is a episode that I have been contemplating recording for the better part of I don't know, the last like 2 weeks. For those that are unfamiliar with me and my life, tomorrow is the 6 year anniversary of my mom's passing. She passed away May 6th, 2020, 4 days shy of Mother's Day that year. Very unexpected. I think that it's been no secret since I've started this podcast that my mom was an addict. That addiction runs in my family on both my mother and father's side. And she, unfortunately, that battle ended abruptly in a abnormal way. Um, to make a long story short, I received a phone call from the Akron Medical Examiner's office. Her name was Amy. I don't know. I think it was around 1:30 that Wednesday, actually. So 6 years ago, this week mimics the exact, I guess, layout of how uh, the week played out in 2020. So my mom passed on a Wednesday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Um, so it's it's interesting, like when it kind of like ends up lining up the same exact way um, that the year it was and how it all came to be. So I was actually at home. Actually, that Wednesday was my first day back into the office. That was, the thick of COVID. We were working remotely for, I don't know, like a month or so. And we went back to work that day. So I went into the office that day. Um, I worked like a half day in the office and then I came home early because I was actually taking Landon to get Mother's Day card for his biological mom. And I had missed a call on the way home from an Akron number and I didn't think anything of it. So I ignored it. I got home, I got Landon, we got in the car, and I was like, oh, I should probably play this voicemail, see who it is. I don't know, it could be a customer. So it started playing over the speakers and it said, hi, this is Amy with Akron Medical Examiner's office calling in regards to Kathy Stanley. And as soon as I heard that, I just could feel in my gut that it wasn't great. Like it wasn't Akron Hospital or Suma or whatever. It was, so I knew, but I didn't know. And anyways, so I called her back and I was like, this is Christy Lamiel. I just had a missed call from Amy. The person on the other end of the line ended up being Amy. And I will never forget the words that she said. She said, Christy, I am sorry to have to tell you this way, but your mom is no longer with us. And I remember screaming and hitting my knees in our front yard. And I just kept screaming no and begging her to take back what she had said. And next thing I know, Landon has his arms wrapped around me and is trying to comfort me. And I know he's never seen me like this. So I know that it is, um, there's panic in his eyes. And he calls his dad. And then, I just remember Matt rushing home. I call my sister. I believe I told my sister over the phone, and I just begged her to come to my house and be with me. Um, Especially because our grandma, so my mom's mom, Susan, um, she is here. She was in Stowe at that time too, and I just knew that we had to make a terrible an informed visit with her to let her know that her daughter had passed away. So I didn't want to do it alone. Obviously, I had my husband and Landon and my sister, and so we go. My sister gets here. She's with Brittany, Baba, Hunter's other aunt. Um, she gives me a hug. We are crying. She said, "Why? How?" And I was like, "I don't have all the details yet, but pretty sure overdose." And so I was like, "We have to go tell grandma. We can't call grandma. We have to tell her in person." And then I had flashbacks of when my papa, so my mom's dad, had passed away, I think in 2018. And my grandma was like, "We can't call your mom and tell her over the phone." She was in rehab at the time, and we were terrified to even tell her in rehab because we didn't want it to set her back. And so I just was having flashbacks of like, we literally just did this a few years ago, having to tell my mom with her mom that her father had passed away. And now I'm having to make that same decision and conversation, but on the reverse. And so we drove over to my grandmother's and we're in masks again, thick of COVID. And I remember her answering the door, and I knew that she could see the look on our faces. And I believe that she probably knew before we even said the words out loud. And that was awful. That was awful. For anyone who hasn't had to notify their grandparent that their child has passed away, that still hits me. And it just was terrible. And so, we were social distancing, but my grandma was like, I don't give a SHIT. I'm coming to your house. I don't want to be alone. I was like, you obviously are more than welcome to be at my house. We haven't been around people, like we're not sick. And then I remember we had to FaceTime my brother because he lives in Florida. And I did not think I was going to get this emotional talking about this, but revisiting this time in someone's life, it is sad, and it does bring up hurt. And I know that I have a better grasp and understanding of death and life and spirituality now that I am I guess, not, I wouldn't even say born again Christian, that I am a Christian, that I have accepted Jesus Christ into my life, that I am still a human and have human feelings. And it doesn't, when you become a Christian, especially, I guess, a new Christian, it doesn't take away all the hurt. It just does lessen that pain a little bit when you know what is to come and what is after this. And you have the faith that that is what's after this. And there may be people that watch this episode and they don't believe in that, and that is okay. That's okay. That's where you're at in your journey of life, and this is where I'm at. So, anyways, we FaceTimed my brother Damien, and I don't even remember exactly how I said it, but I just said it. And he was going through a hard time at that point. About a year or two prior, had lost his son, not by death, but my nephew Braden was taken from them by the state of Florida. And so I knew that he had some um, regret of not calling our mom when he found out he was becoming a dad, and then even just showing pictures. There was just a lot of regret, and I won't speak for my brother, but I think all that started hitting him when he realized that our mom was no longer here. She was gone. And their relationship was not the greatest. My mom gave up custody of us when we were younger to give us a better life, and she thought that that decision was going to give all of us a better life. And so we come to find out years later that that's not how my brother's story unfolded, because his dad took him and my grandma took my sister and I. So, anyways, we lost contact with my brother for 10 years. And I gained contact with my brother when he was like 14, I think. And then my sister was talking to him, but my mom hadn't talked to him. So my mom went way more than 10 years of not seeing her son. And then I essentially begged his father to let me take him when he was 17 and move him up to Ohio. And so when he was 17 was the first time he had seen my mom since he was 3. So okay, so 14 years he had not seen or known his mom. So all of his life at that point. And at that point, unfortunately, my brother got the reoccurring addict in my mom. So prior to that, my mom was clean, and then my mom got she fell off the wagon again. And so when he came back into our lives, he was coming back into an addict life as well, and an active addict, I should say. And so a very volatile relationship. He started to do drugs as well, and so anyways, there just was a lot of anger and animosity towards our mom with him. And we all had those moments. Maybe a little less my sister. But I won't speak for my siblings. But so their relationship was on the rocks prior to her passing. And so me having to call and tell him, I think there's still probably to this day regret of him and the relationship that he chose to have with her. So having to FaceTime my brother because he's in Florida to notify him that our mother had died. There just was a lot hitting at like left and right. And thank God for my husband. Thank God for my sister to be able to be there with her. Um, she tends to hold in her emotions, and I don't agree with it. And I wish that she would let them out a little bit more. But nonetheless, that's what she does. And so um, I didn't want to believe that it like at this point all I had was a phone call. I hadn't seen anything. And so I'm like, maybe they're wrong. Maybe it's not our mom. And during COVID, for anyone who doesn't know this, um, you essentially had to take their word for it until you went to the funeral home to see the body. Well, I wasn't accepting that. And I have a friend who at the time her dad was the head medical examiner for Akron. And I called her and I said, look, they're telling me I can't go there to make sure and confirm that it's my mom, but I am begging to please let me verify and confirm that it is our mom. Like I can't accept this. So she pulled a few strings and thank God, thank you, Angie, if you're watching this. And Matt drove me there. We only two people could go in. Actually not even that, but only one person can go to confirm. The whole family couldn't show up. So maybe in the oldest, I said I'm doing it. And plus I just didn't still remember to this day what my dad looked like, and so I just didn't want to do that to my sister, and so I was like, I will be the one to remember that. And so they let me into the office. It was probably, I don't know, it was in well into the evening, and I remember walking into the room, and uh, there was like glass windows, and the shades were down and closed. And I walked up to the window and he said, you tell me when you're ready. And so I looked at Matt, and Matt was like, take your time. And he's holding my hand and doing the best that he can because this is like traumatic for him too. I mean, like, he's experienced loss in life, but like, aside from his, I think, grandfather, this was like the closest death that he had experienced. Meanwhile, his wife has a mile long list of things that she's already done. So I almost felt like I also had to be super strong for him too. And so I remember looking at the gentleman, and I feel so terrible, but I can't remember his name now. I remember Amy. She was the one who told me that mom was gone. So, anyways, I remember looking at him and I shook my head, yes. And I said I was ready. And then he pulled the blinds, and there she was. And that was hard. That was hard. Um, and seeing her like that, and she was so frail. And I hadn't seen her in months because, again, COVID, F COVID. Sorry, Pastor Bill. Um, I didn't realize just how bad life had like taken its toll on her in the last few months. Like, obviously, I've shared on social media and shown texts and stuff, but to see it and to see just how fragile and tiny and small she was. And anyone who knows my mom, yeah, she was always on the thinner side. She had her moments where her weight would fluctuate. And honestly, it was dependent on if she was clean or not. The heavier she was, the meant the cleaner she was. But my mom never gave off the sense of tiny and fragile and small. But in that moment, she was. She was I don't need to go into the details, but so I identified my mom through a glass window on May 6th, 2020. And I lost it. And I said yes, that it for sure was her. And then I remember going out into back into the parking lot. I definitely punched my vehicle. I kicked it. I puked a little bit, and then I don't know why, but the first thing that I thought to do was just write a post and just notify the world that my mom was gone. And so, anyways, 6 years later, um, as you can imagine, when you think back to that day, 6 years, 6 years is nothing, really. I mean, it's a lot, but it's also nothing. Like, I'm 37 years old, so I had 31 years with my mom before she was gone. And so loss sometimes has a way of like, no matter how many years it's been, coming back and smacking you in the face during that anniversary or during that birthday or that holiday. And so I started this podcast in September, uh, you know, which is also her when she, was her birthday month, September 2nd. But that's not when I started the podcast. But anyways, a lot happened in September. I all of a sudden woke up one day and I realized I believed in Jesus, and I got baptized in September, and podcast started. And so um, the last 2 weeks I've been thinking, like, do I want to make an episode for my mom for this? Do I want to revisit those feelings? And yes, I do. And some people may look at this and be like, this is absolutely ridiculous, or this is absurd, or, um, you're just craving attention or wanting attention. I don't. I don't want attention. I get maybe 20 views on these episodes. Like, again, at the end of the day, this podcast was more for me to essentially have like a therapy session, talking to a camera, but getting out my life and talking about my life, because I know that there are things that I have experienced that have helped people. They have come to me privately and shared with me that my story helped them, or my path with my faith is helping them reinvigorate their faith, or in dipping their toes in wanting to learn about faith. So the reason I decided to sit down today, the day before her passing, is one, tomorrow I would like to honor my mom with activities. And that's what I have done the last 6 years, whether it's gotten a tattoo, a piercing, spent time with my sister, went and bought flowers. Um, I like to fill the day with making really great memories in her honor, because I know that she would rather me do that than sit and cry and scream and question life. And at this point in my life, I'm not even there anymore. I don't want to cry and scream because I believe that my mom has met our maker, has met our heavenly father. And so I still want to keep doing things to honor her. And I actually looked through her papers and stuff again a few days ago. And there was a paper that said, like, something about explain like what your perfect day would be. And my mom said, being with her family at a cabin on a lake fishing. And so I asked Matt and Landon if tomorrow we could go fishing. I want to go fishing for my mom. Do I even like to fish? Not really. I actually have terrible patience when it comes to fishing. If I don't catch a fish within the first 5 minutes, ugh. My husband loves fishing. I think it's fair to say that Landon really enjoys fishing, and maybe it's because he enjoys spending the time with his dad. But anyways, I asked the two of them. I took off the day and I said, "Can we please go do that to honor mom?" And then because it also happens her this anniversary, and also literally when she passed away 6 years ago falls on a Wednesday. Our church also has a AA meeting every Wednesday, and I kind of want to attend that in the evening time and be surrounded by people who continue to succeed and beat their addiction. Um, because when my mom was trying to do her best, I know she attended meetings like that. And I know that she surrounded herself with other people that were continuing to win and beat um, the addictions that they were struggling with. And so I'm thinking about attending that as well, and honoring her. And you know, I, I'm I know who my mom was. I know that she was an addict. I also know that my mom was a great mom. Like she was an honest mom. She was a loving mom. She was a protective mom when she could. Um, she was a selfless mom. To give up your children and the custody of them to give them a better life, I think is a the ultimate sacrifice that she had made. Not sacrifice, but the ultimate decision to try and make sure that her children lived a better life and had a better future than the one that she had. And so I love my mom. And so I will continue to honor her any way that I can. And so by sharing this story is also keeping my mom's memory alive. Like she may be gone, but she still was a person that walked this earth and created me and my sister and my brother. And so, her mom's still around, my grandma, who lives 10 minutes away from me. So I'll probably go see her and do something, or I know she'll watch this episode. So but also something that I did was write a letter. And again, for those that know me, even on an intimate level, writing has been a way for me to also um, get those thoughts or feelings out. And again, I know that I share them on the social media world, but I do it because I feel called to show people that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel mad. It's okay to feel blessed and faith based and happy and confused. It's okay to express those feelings too, because the world throws so much at us every single day. And sometimes it can create confusion or stumbling or not knowing who or how to be. And when I share my experiences and my feelings and thoughts, I do it because not for myself, but I do it for other people because I want people to know that it's okay to feel the way that you do. And it's okay to talk about it because I think too many times people get told to be quiet or to hurry up through their grief and get over it. And there's no getting over that. And so for those of you that fall like stumble upon this video and you're like, well, I can't relate, thank God for that, that you can't relate right now. But there is going to come a day where you are going to relate and it's going to confuse you tremendously, especially if you're surrounded by people that still also don't get it. So just understand that everyone has different ways of navigating through their grief and their sadness and their happiness. And I believe that if there's one thing that I was brought on this earth to do, it was to try and help people, whether it's through my words, my actions, my experiences. Um, I just want to help people and I want to provide people with like an outlet. And I want to also help people not feel so crazy. So that's why I chose to sit down and do this episode, even though it's extremely personal details and there are details that I still haven't shared with the world about my life and what it was like to grow up with parents that are addicts and in and out of the prison systems and mile long records and how that impacted me and how people looked at me or perceived me. And so those are all things that I'll share at some point because I do believe that it's also important for anyone who may come upon some of these episodes that are also addicts and they're, trying to recover or they're still in the thick of their addiction. I sometimes think that it's a good thing for them to also see what their actions and decisions do to those around them that they love. Because I feel like there's so many times when a person is in the thick of their addiction and all they're thinking about is when they're going to get their next high or when this is going to take them out. I think that sometimes they fail to remember the invisible string of people that are also connected to them and how it affects them and how it affects them long after that person is also gone. And so my mom's actions and also have consequences, right? So like her being an addict, she was hurting herself, yes, and her addiction was literally slowly killing her. Whether I think that she died solely by herself or there was the help of the person that was supplying her the drugs, maybe he physically didn't do it, but I do think that he should have been held accountable because he was part of the problem. And I do believe that people that continue to provide drugs to others should be held accountable if that person dies. You made that decision to also sell something knowing that it can kill a person. So, anyways, where I was going with that, because that's a whole other topic that I would like to talk about at some point. But there are consequences long after the addict is gone, and there's impact long after the addict is gone of what it does to their family members and their children and parents and siblings and aunts and uncles and friends. And I have had to learn how to navigate life without my mom at a young age, just like I did with my dad at an even younger age. And so maybe it stings a little if you're watching this and you're starting to realize I'm really hurting people. Yeah, you are. You are. And I am asking you to please do better. Work on your addiction and work on your struggles. So anyways, I wrote a letter um essentially to my mom and I would like to share that. And so that is what I'm going to do. And then tomorrow I am going to, when the weather clears up, hopefully, I'm going to go fishing with my son and my husband. And I am going to then surround myself in the evening with other recovering addicts and listen to their stories and maybe even tell a little bit about my mom's story or even the fact that what that day means. I don't know. It'll come to me when it comes to me, but um, I'll talk to my sister. I will pray that I hear from my brother. I will talk to my grandma. So today, um, I chose to sit down and get this all out and share my letter with my mom, and then I will end this, share it with the world, and I will make beautiful and happy memories tomorrow in honor of my mom and repeat it again in a year from now. So, with that said, hey, Mom, it's been 6 years since you closed your eyes to the pain, despair, anger, cruelty, darkness, and sorrow of the world. And when they opened, you saw peace, comfort, joy, light, happiness, and love of heaven and our Heavenly Father welcoming you home. I will faithfully believe that you were greeted by your grandma, your dad, your big brother, my dad, the baby boy you lost before your journey to me, and all those that laughed before you. I will not sugarcoat my words and say your daughter has not struggled with your passing. Losing you was like relearning how to live without the person who physically brought me into this world. Like a piece of each of my organs left you, and I had to regrow them with the sorrow that plagued me. because continuing to go on wasn't not an option. It had to be done. Navigating a world without your existence has been a challenge impossible to crack. There is no life book that can scratch the surface of parental loss and the feeling one becomes painfully aware of when the reality sets in that they are an orphan. But the aftershocks of life once your battle ended, oh, sorry, you say your children were your greatest blessings and love in life. But the aftershocks of life once your battle ended, no one could have anticipated or prepared for. I know the words I write down are things you already know, but my therapy is pen to paper or finger to screen. Your son, I fear, has taken a similar path to you, and I am unsure how to save him. I know this is not what you wish for him. I know you never wanted any of us to know what it felt like to be an addict. Loving and losing him was one of your biggest regrets in life. I believe this to be true in the deepest parts of my soul. He was given the letter I found among your things. I hope he reads it and remembers the love that is and always will be there, just found in the whispers of the wind and the twinkle of the sky late at night. Wherever he is, I hope he hears this and feels the pull to do better and be better than the chapters already laid before this new one starts. He is stronger, wiser, and braver than the fools that ever made him feel less than. But how do I, as his big sister, get through the thick skull similar to yours? Be near him, Mom. Give him the signs only a mother can provide. Kayla. She has gained back her independence and overcomes obstacles every day. Although we know she is not one to share or express much emotion, or even show it, I know her missing you has not eased. Your baby girl. She pushes to be the best mom every single day to Hunter Lee, and my goodness, is he getting so big, funny, and independent. A piece of her heart outside of her body. The similarities in their love, gentleness, and looks has been amazing to witness these last 8 years. Wow, that's wild to say. She has had her share of setbacks, and life smacked her around a bit, but she doesn't seem to let it take her down completely. You will be happy to know our friendship has come back even stronger than before. I got my best friend back, Mom. I just ask that the moments you watch over us, you give a little extra to her as she continues to push forward with taking back her health and finding her footing through life and faith. It's no secret that I was a fierce protector of Kayla and Damien growing up, but at times I have failed them during this journey of mourning you. Moments of contemplating my own existence entered my brain more times than I care to admit, which meant leaving them to figure this new norm out. I know, pretty selfish, right? Life has shaken me to my core since your passing. I shut the world out and people out many times, battling a cancer diagnosis with Stitchy that ultimately took him from us, navigating a chapter with a beautiful child that I helped raise, but ultimately decided they wanted nothing to do with their dad, sibling, and I. This went against everything I learned growing up. You don't turn your back on your family. I can't force that relationship, nor can I save them from the pain they will ultimately have to navigate years from now when life smacks them in the face and the reality of their decisions set in. But having you to talk with would have helped me from going so insane over it all. My health seemed to take a back burner for a bit, which then smacked me in my own face about 2.5 to 3 years ago. Facing the decisions to evict a major part of me that made me woman was hard, but facing it without the voice and ears of my mom made it that much more difficult. Although we didn't always see eye to eye on life, your words were always strong and true. What I needed to hear, even when I didn't know it. You always called me your free bird, said my journey to motherhood would look different, but I bet you didn't see a hysterectomy in her bingo card. That's true. However, you did show up in a way I would never have imagined, in the form of a red beat up Bible and scripture in your handwriting. You helped lead me to Jesus, Mom. I was met with his love and your love in the nick of time. Something that most likely would have taken me out completely was met with a newfound faith. When I look back at the last 6 years, what you left behind for us is clear as day now. There were no farewell letters. I don't really believe you intended that to be our farewell moment, but for another day, I suppose. We searched for signs everywhere, but what was actually right in front of us? God. The Bibles and the scripture were your way of letting us know it would all be okay. I grabbed those Bibles 6 years ago and paid no mind to them, locked them away in a container, and went about living my life thinking I had it all under control. I was not in control. I did not have it all figured out, and I was a lost sheep. Accepting Jesus Christ into my heart and asking to be saved is literally what saved me. Your Bible saved me. Your favorite scriptures saved me. You couldn't be fixed here on earth, but at the end of the day, we aren't meant to be, are we? You had a heavy cross to bear, and you did it. You took your cross, walked your path, and received the ultimate gain. You didn't speak out loud in front of me to be saved, but what I found and what little belongings you had was enough proof to know that you loved Jesus, believed in him, and he was there waiting for you when you went back home. I didn't tell you nearly enough just how special our bond was, but I have a feeling you always knew. I said I forgave you years ago, but I didn't say thank you for the lessons in the life. But I have a feeling you always knew. I love you with all my heart and soul. Until we meet again one day at those pearly gates. Forever